The Nakhmanson gambit has the most complicated traps in chess. Don't believe me? Today I procured 10 different trappy lines for you to crush your opponents with. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Beginning with the Scotch game, do what over T, you guys all know the drill. Knight c3, sacking the knight on top of the two pawns we sacked. Now if d takes, we're going to sacrifice the bishop. King has to take, otherwise, bishop d5, whatever. So after queen to d5, I have king to e8. Rook e1 is the only move that can even hold a draw. And now bishop d6 is a really weird and common blunder. So rook takes e4, and whatever he does, he'll block. You play bishop g5. If he tries to kick you out, no matter, you just take. You double up the rooks. And if he takes this pawn right here, trying to divert your forces away from him, then rook to f4. And notice that only two moves stop mate in one. Now, let's cover rook f8. If rook f8, then just this, and this knight is pinned, so it can't actually take the queen. So instead of that, d6, queen f7, knight to e5, sacrificing the knight. Brilliant move, by the way. And once he takes, rook d1, king c6, and now queen c4. Every move is forced. He literally has no other legal moves. Now queen to b3, and wherever he goes, it's going to be mate with a rook. Now let's say instead of, after this series of captures, king e8, instead he decides to play king to f6. Now, you might think this is a problem at first, but after queen takes e4, something like d5 is actually very likely. Why is this a blunder? Well, bishop to g5, he only has one move that is legal, which is king to f7, and after queen to f4, a very simple intermezzo. Wherever he goes, we are going to be winning this queen. Now, isn't that something? If instead of taking with the pawn, he decides to take with the knight, then you're going to have to take back. And so if d5, you play bishop to b5. And now, hopefully, you'll be able to fight for some compensation here. Now, if he is to take your pawn right here, you're going to play knight to e5. And of course, what you're threatening here is just a basic little fork. And this is, of course, going to be our losing for black. So a way that black may seek to prevent that is bishop to d7. Now, this is actually a horrible blunder. Why? Because of rook to e1. Now, whatever he does, you're just going to put a pressure along the e-file. And if he blocks, that's okay. You just play bishop to a3. He can take your bishop, that's fine. Because now, take a look at this. You win the queen. Because if king f8, then you just play rook d7. It's a discovered check with the bishop. So then if he moves back, you take the queen. And now if rook takes, queen g4 is actually going to be +9. And you should easily be winning. Just put more pressure down the e-file, and it should be very, very difficult for you to lose this game. When playing this gambit, occasionally you'll come across an opponent who seeks to decline it. Generally, the way they'll do that is knight to d6. Now, knight to d6 is actually a rather strange move. And it still maintains this double attack, but in black's eyes, he's taking initiative, and he's getting into a position other than the one you have set for him. So the move here is knight to d5. If he is to take your bishop, which he is almost guaranteed to do, I mean, everything else actually loses for him anyways, so whatever. We're going to play rook to e1, after bishop to e7. Then you're going to take, he'll take back, and queen takes d4. The only thing he can do is sacrifice the knight. Because if he tries to save the knight, which is the trap I'm showing you, then you simply take on g7. If he attempts to save the rook with something like rook here is a best try, then it's just bishop to h6. He has no way to make space for the king or anything. So after f5, for example, I mean, this is just mate in 1, so it's whatever. So he has to sack the rook, and you could just win the queen here and go on. You don't really have to win this mate, but I like to have the mates here, and boom, and just now once again, because this knight is pinned, as always, this knight ends up being pinned on e7, and that's what helps you make your mating attack. Now on to the next trap. Now I've shown you some rather computer-like moves. Say black is a human and he forgets some of these stranger intermezzos I've been showing you. So after this sequence, yes, you've seen this before, just in the last trap too. Queen takes e4, bishop e7, yep, knight e5, and why can't he take here? I'm going to show you. Because now, after this, I just have so much pressure along here. He should just be dying. There's nothing he can do. If he tries to break the pin, then we're just going to take. I mean, it doesn't really matter what he does. We're going to take on c7. We're actually threatening mate here, because now if he plays any random move, like here, for example, it's actually mate in 2, because he has to go here, and, well, that's just going to be mate very easily. And so there's nothing he can do there. So instead of that, he's going to play h5, making space for the king. We're just going to take here, and now we have a massive attack. We don't really have any direct threats, but it's going to be very difficult for him to develop. We're up a pawn, and we should just be winning very easily. On to the next drop. Black has infinite ways to blunder here, and I'll just show you another one. The only other safe square he has with this queen here that makes any sense is queen to f8. And so some people might actually play that. And if they do, then you're just going to take the knight on c6. They'll take back, and queen to b4 avoids anything crazy happening with the queen, because now the queen cannot escape, and now you're attacking this with the rook. And so when he moves up, you just take here, and he can't move over, because if he does, then you just win the queen anyways. So he has to take, and after all this, you just take. You're up a queen, you're going to be hunting all the pawns down, and you should be winning rather easily, because you're even threatening this fork over here, and you just have so much tempo, you have so many attacks, all your pieces are in the game, and even though black has more pieces, this should be very easily winning, and even if you're 800, you can probably convert this pretty well. On to the next drop. Now, as I've said before, there are many, many ways that black can blunder here, and among them, in this position, he can play the absolutely horrible h6. It's mate in 7. Just queen to h5, here you take, and after king f6, I mean, every outer line is pretty intuitive. So I'm just showing you the only one where you play something kind of unintuitive, which is knight to h4. You're threatening this checkmate here. Only way for him to stop that is to use the knight somewhere. Knight to e5 actually works better here, but I mean, then it becomes pretty intuitive. So now just queen f3. knight f5 is forced, and queen takes f5 is going to be a checkmate in the center of the board. That wasn't that fun. On to the next trap. Now, I haven't actually shown you what happens if black plays perfectly and knows all the theory. So I decided to play the engine and show you. I got a draw, as you can see. You know, it was a 96 move game. This was how it ended. Right around here, just random, just weird game. But if we go back here, just starting off with Nakhmanson, here we are. And this is how the engine plays. It knows all the intermezzos, and as you can see, this endgame is pretty easily drawn. He's up a pawn, but he has bad pawn structure, and it's going to be difficult for him to hold on to this a pawn here. And it's opposite color bishops too, so there's not much he can do here. As you can see, that ended up holding out pretty well. So yeah. Here, all you do is you just take here. If he does do intermezzo, you just play rook b1. If he takes you, you take back. If he takes, you just take this bishop, and he has to go over here. Otherwise, it's discovered checkmate. Just rook e3, and if he gets the rook out, you just force him back, and that is going to be a rather easy draw for you. So on to the next trap. I promise I won't show any more engine play. Now, I've only shown you one way to decline the Nakhmanson gambit, and I showed you the sound way to decline it. The most common unsound way is knight to f6. This actually falls to knight g5, because now, of course, if you take, it's mate in 6. And otherwise, you're just getting that fork, and you're going to be winning very well. Because bishop takes f7, king e7, rook e1. He has to sacrifice his knights. He's literally forced to. Knight e4 is the only one that doesn't lead to mate in 1. Here, and obviously it's mate in 1 if here, because then this. So knight e5, you take again, king f6, you sack the rook brilliantly. And after this, just queen f4, that's checkmate. And whoever played knight f6 against you, thinking that declining a gambit is the best way to play against it, you can just laugh at them. On to the next trap. Now, there are a couple other ways that black can fuck up, simply by forgetting the intermezzo right here. Now, b takes c6 is actually going to be a horrible blunder, because queen to d4, I don't have to trade queens. I can give you a discovered skewer, because now when you move this queen out in the way, if you save it like this, then I'm just going to take here, and if you go here, then I'm just going to double up the rooks, sacrifice the bishop. If you take, then this just happens, and I skewer you, but I don't even take the queen. I don't even have to take the queen, but I will. But your king takes back, it's queen g7. Wherever the king moves, this is going to be a very quick checkmate. Now, yes, that is a 10th trap. This video is almost over, but I have one more game to show you. Let's transition to that. While the Nakhmanson gambit may seem like a ridiculous opening, meant only for amateurs and beginners, it's actually more effective at the higher levels, since people are significantly more likely to play the Dubois-Reti defense here. Now, this was a bullet game between me and someone called Mammoth. I requested that we play the Scotch Gambit, and he accepted. I played the Nakhmanson. Same sacrifices, And, of course, there was this bishop e7 line, which we haven't covered very much, and I actually ended up screwing up here. Now, after rook to f8, which is the only move to stop perpetual check, I played knight takes h7. And now, the most natural move for him here, which he played, is actually a blunder. Rook to f5. Because now I found this, right, after all this, I kind of fucked up. I just perpetually checked him. What I should have done here is gone for this fork. I mean, it was bullet, and this was rather difficult to see for me because I had not studied this variation at all. But after all this, I was actually very much winning. And this just goes to show that even if you don't know the theory in the Nakhmanson gambit that allows you to win, if you have studied the concepts from the other lines I showed you, like in the line where you sack on e5 to checkmate the king with the queen on b3, then you would be very aware of this. Now, the Nakhmanson gambit is in no way perfect. You're not always going to win. In fact, I would say upwards of 70% of the games you play in the Nakhmanson are going to be a draw. And many of them are going to be draw by the 50 move rule or something because it's going to get into a ridiculous endgame normally. But it works especially well in shorter time controls. Sadly, I am terrible in time crunches, so I just went for a draw. But hopefully you can learn from all this here, and hopefully you can realize in all of this that this gambit is a serious weapon, and you can use it very effectively. So please, go forth, have some fun with this, and make me proud. Maybe tag me in a game down in the comments. I would love to see you. Now this has been Blundered Games, signing off.